Then, you guys ready? We're okay? Okay. Keep in mind this is also being live streamed and filmed, and it's going to be on our YouTube page. This is a reminder for everybody to know that they are being recorded. If they're not okay with that, they can go back. So we'll have the Meet the Candidates event. We have this every time we have more candidates than we have vacancies to fill. So this year we have 4 vacancies to fill. Dr. Mithas, Brother Samir, and Dr. T, who's up front, are all up for re-election. Brother T is not running, and Dr. Tai is also resigning from his post. So there is 4 vacancies open. Today we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I believe we have 7 candidates full. Brother Khalid Yusuf could not be here. He's extremely sick. I spoke with him on the phone, so we all pray that he gets better. We're still waiting to hear back from the test about COVID. He's currently in isolation, so pray for him. As you all are aware, Khalid served on the board, and he very much apologizes for not being able to be here. Dr. Sayed Khan, who's also not in attendance today, he also apologizes. He had a prior engagement planned several months ago. Towards the end, Dr. Leopold will read a statement from Dr. Khan as well, as far as what he wants to accomplish. So without further ado, I will leave this to Dr. Leopold, who will be moderating. Again, I just ask that everybody try to be respectful and professional, and everything should go through Dr. Leopold today as he is a moderator. Thank you.
You know, one great thing about ICCD, this is a democratic institution, and this is one of the most important democratic events. Is it coming out?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And democracy is messy, so we shouldn't feel bad if we have only 50% of the people present. That's about as good as the United States election every year. And also we are very happy we have no insurrection. People are very peaceful, very friendly, very peaceful. So we should feel really good about it. My role here is pretty simple, just keep the clock, and actually that's not going to be difficult because we have 4 people here, I think, who will speak. Five people, and Dr. Said Khan's letter I have, which is fairly large but excellent, and I will read it. I don't want any biases or any accusation of biases in candidates, so I am going to treat the order purely alphabetically. We start with Kamran Beg and end with Khalid Yusuf, who is not here. So I hope all of you really are prepared to listen carefully, ask hard questions, don't hold back on the questions. This is really a very important thing. You know, sometimes we joke about it, the numbers and all these things. But people you elect are the leaders. And you know, any organization, any community, any organization of any type, really is very much dependent on the people who are the leaders, because they are the ones who really set the agenda, they are the ones who really manage the place. If you elect bad people or if you really don't care about it, then the organization will go down. So leadership is very, very important. And prime example is those of us who have lived here more than 10 years know that the United States is, you know, every place I have been in the world, people admire the United States. And what we saw in the last few years, with one president and how far we went down. So leadership is absolutely critical. Without that, nobody really succeeds. So take this seriously. And also tell, that many people are not there, but your friends, you should communicate your ideas. Election will be held in a matter of weeks and days. I think that announcement is going to come very shortly. So with that, I will start, and I was going to set up a clock for 10 minutes, but I'm not going to set up the clock because I think we have plenty of time. We have hour and 45 minutes. We don't have to use all the time, but use all that you need. So I will start with Mr. Kamran Beg. He needs no introduction.
So when you say you're going to start with me, what do you mean?
You go ahead and then...
We have a wrestling match or?
No, not me. I'm peaceful.
Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. So I assume we start by a small introduction of my background. I moved to the area back in 1986. So I've been associated with this masjid for, like 35 years. My kids all grew up here and, went to weekend schools, and now they're all gone to different places. I've recently moved from Niskayuna to, I'm currently temporarily living in Cohoes, and inshallah we'll be moving soon to Clifton Park, still trying to be as close as possible to the masjid. We'll be about 20 minutes or so away. Second, I'd like to really thank the people who have been serving the community, especially the current administration that has, in my opinion, done a wonderful job of getting us through the COVID, pandemic that we all faced. This was unprecedented, never happened. I mean, have you ever had the Hajj being cancelled? I don't remember in my 63 years that a Hajj was cancelled. So the organization here, the administration, all volunteers, by the way. There are no on the board. There's nobody who's paid to do this. Sometimes people ask why do they do it. Maybe I'll address that a little bit later. But they did a phenomenal job of continuing the services at the masjid and in a safe manner, where we were able to conduct Friday prayers, other regular prayers, Quran classes for the kids, and were able to do it in a safe manner where no one was affected. So I really appreciate it and thank the current administration. Then I'd like to thank all the past boards and administrations for bringing this organization from when I came in '86. For Jummah, we used to have 2 rows in the masjid upstairs, to an organization that has multi-million-dollar facilities, and we used to, before COVID, have 500 to 600 people praying Jummah here. The cemetery is phenomenal, which is almost walking distance from here. The new school is operating, the weekend school is operating. So all that stuff took a lot of effort over the last, I think the center was established in the 70s, and now, 50 years later, it's a thriving organization which serves the community. So I appreciate all the people who have served this, and I make dua for them that may Allah give them ajr for giving their time and effort to make this happen for the community. So that I think brings me to my point about why do we do it, and really the reason for doing it is maybe some simple act that we do as part of this board might be accepted by Allah as something that's good, and it might help expiate some of our sins. So that's really my reason for coming back to try to serve. Plus I'm retired now, so I have, according to my wife, a lot more time on my hands. She wants me out of the home more. So here I am, back. I did serve the board about 10 years ago, and now I'm back again, hoping to be able to contribute some towards the furtherance of the goals of this organization. Lastly, I think I'm supposed to say, what am I going to do when I'm here? What will I focus on? So I took another look because I was here 10 years ago. I hadn't really looked at the Constitution much. When I looked at it, there are 8 purposes listed in the Constitution that for ICCD that the Board of Trustees, as part of their role, should focus on. And basically, it's to help the Muslims in the Tri-City areas to be able to pursue their Islamic way of life, to establish a center for religious, social activities, to strengthen the bonds between Muslims from different parts of the world. And here in this center, one of the best things I liked was the diversity, where we have Muslims from all over the world congregate here and make friends. Then promote understanding and friendly relations between Muslims and non-Muslims, which is the interfaith piece. And Islamic education, not only for our kids, but for ourselves. And then to make Islamic dawah. And dawah can be in different forms. It's not just going and preaching Islam. It's about behaving as good Muslims and making an example of ourselves for the community. And then operating a Muslim cemetery and a school. So these were kind of the purposes listed in the Constitution. So I came across a very nice ISNA related organization paper, and they've kind of distilled it down to 3 things. And so I'll focus on those. I'll just mention those 3 things where they said, how do we make and reimagine Muslim spaces? Because as you know, we are immigrants, first generation. Then we have our kids who are basically Americans, and they're millennials who have a different way of thinking. And how do we make these spaces attractive to those new Muslims, the Muslims who are going to inherit these facilities when we're gone? So the 3 points they mentioned were: make your Islamic space a welcoming, inclusive, and engaging place. And then they go through a lot of different things you could do to make it an inclusive and engaging place. If he's interested, I'll let you know the name of the paper and you can go read it. I thought it was very well done. And they use a lot of data to come up with these items. The number 2 point they list was that the center should be well governed, effective and transparent. Basically, effectively governed, which it has been done, like I mentioned earlier. That's why we've grown to such a big organization. Transparent meaning, communicate. Communication cannot be stressed enough. Keeping the community informed, keeping everyone informed of what's going on, so folks feel more included. And then the 3rd piece is making it a hub of hope, which they translate to that a source of community service, like our food pantry, like our Zakah committee. All those things are the hub of hope. So 3 things: make it a welcoming place, inclusive and engaging, make it well governed, effective and transparent, whether it means having better procedures, administrating better, communicating better, and then making it a hub of hope, enhancing our community service projects that we've got going. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Question?
No.
At the end?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's up to you. You're leading, whatever you want to do.
I think it's better because people forget by the time last speaker has spoken. People forget the questions. So I think it's more appropriate to ask after the speaker has spoken, people have the question. That's generally a universal thing.
I think if nobody has any objections.
I think questions should be, everybody should speak and then somebody has a question they can ask.
Well, okay, we are a democratic organization. What do people think?
I think we have a moderator for a reason.
That's right. Whatever you listen, what I listen.
I will use my that privilege only if necessary.
So I think that the questions should be directed to the speaker immediately, that we can see what's his input. So if anybody has a question for Kamran, they should ask Kamran.
Yeah, I have attended at least 1,000 conferences meeting in my life, and I have never, this procedure is absolutely rare, where questions are the most important point of any meeting. If people don't ask questions, be the speaker doing the job or the audience is sleeping. One or the other, or maybe both. So I will say, yes, please go
I have a
ahead.
question for Kamran. I know we would like to bring back our kids to this community. What are we going to be doing to get that to happen? I think our imams should be encouraging that. I don't see that from our imams. They're the head of this institution. So is there a future look for any of this board, the new board, to change imams, to get younger imams, to bring younger generation in? Or what are we going to do to get this better for our kids?
Thank you for the question. Well, see, I'm not on the board, so I don't want to make any proclamations right now because the board knows what they've been doing and what the situations are. I'm not privy to all that goes on there. But the 3 points I made was making the place a welcoming place. That is your point on how do you make it welcoming where people will be attracted. One point I would make is I think we need more women on this side of the room. I mean, if you look at the table, it's all men. And if you look at on that side, it's mostly women. So what is wrong here? I mean, why are there no women interested in running for the Board of Trustees?
So we want all 7 seats.
Fine.
That's what's wrong.
Yes, we should.
We don't know any
So I think it starts there. We need more engagement from our better halves, so they get more engaged. I think they'll bring a much better, softer approach. And I think we still need younger folks, more youth, because some of the comments I hear are people are turned off by the emotional uncles, which we are, the emotional uncles. So the thing is, we need to get more stable, the women and the youth, and then the other thing is, it's as simple as a smile. Our Prophet ﷺ said, even a smile is a charity. Including myself, I always have a frown on my face, So we need to learn how to smile more, and maybe this article that I was talking about talks about a Taslim committee, which is a welcoming committee. Basically a group of volunteers that welcome, even at Jummah, if they stand at the door and just say Salaam Alaikum to everyone that's coming in, that gives a good feeling that, wow, these guys really want us to come in here, So those are the kind of things, some of the things we could be doing. And of course, working with the imams to follow the same kind of rigor, Thank you.
Brother Kamran, Assalamu alaikum. I have a question. You have been involved in tutoring young students also. Can you please elaborate on that?
Well, I don't know where you got that information because no.
You have helped mentor a few students and young people. Could you please elaborate? And if you would provide that service here also.
Yes, I mean, I did get asked by the principal of Al-Noor at one semester to help with some mentoring for the kids of Al-Noor, so for their career. So they did come to me and we did talk about their career aspirations. It's as simple as just listening, really. When they're talking, I tend to talk more than listen. But so it takes a lot of effort when you have a youngster who wants to be mentored. I think it's everything is about listening to that person and understanding what they're talking about, and then based on your experiences, being able to help them kind of choose a direction or a purpose. And so I think you're making an excellent point that perhaps where the uncles, quote unquote, the uncles could be useful is helping mentor our youths more. Maybe we should start a mentoring program for youth. You know, because I look at a resource like Al-Noor that this masjid has. So we shouldn't have any difficulty in recruiting volunteers when we have 150 or whatever, I don't know what the current size of Al-Noor is, students out there and their parents. We shouldn't have any difficulty attracting folks.
No, my question,
My-
everybody say that we're doing something for youth, we have nothing for youth here.
My experience is a little different than yours. When I was here on the board, we used to have 400 people in this room, you know, and we had some chaos, etc. There was a lot of interest in the masjid at that time. So then I went off to Saudi Arabia. When I came back, I think we still have people coming here praying, etc. But I'm not sure why the volunteerism has dropped somewhat. However, when you look at the food pantry, for example, I see lines of cars out there, and it takes a lot of effort to get that food pantry going, right? So there are people volunteering in certain places. Perhaps we could take the example of food pantry and see how we can apply it to other places, you know. So that's based on my outside observation. Hopefully, if I am selected by the community to serve on the board, then perhaps we can look at it more deeply and see what the underlying
Make it
issues.
more welcoming, so what's your vision, how do you want to make it more welcoming?
I thought I answered that earlier because I don't want to take up all the time. One idea was to set up a welcoming committee, basically of volunteers who, just as simple as at Jummah, as people are coming, just saying Salaam Alaikum to them. You know. Today we basically come in with our head bowed and with a frown, including myself, with a frown on our face, and just go to our place of prayer. I've seen masajids where, you know, especially if there are newcomers to the area, you know, if they are welcomed, they will feel so good. Because I've been there when I was traveling for GE, I would go to a new masjid, and if somebody greeted me there at that masjid who was a local there, I would feel pretty good that, oh, these guys are pretty organized. I don't think we do that here enough. That's one thing that we could do probably.
I just have a quick
The
comment.
sister had a question, I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt Brother Liaquat, but the sister had a question, I think.
So my question is, you're saying we'll make it more welcoming and things like that. It's easier to say than doing. So I've been here for 4 years, and I think what you need, the basic that you're saying why sisters are not here. The reason is the environment here. This masjid is not comfortable. The environment is not comfortable enough for sisters to be here. Firstly, they don't have the building itself. You don't have female entrance separate, and a lot of sisters we don't feel comfortable walking, bumping into brothers when entering or going up the stairs. Brothers are following, coming down, and you're female. The space for female it's not private. It's not private enough, or it's not spacious, where there's a big gap between brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
So a lot of sisters, a lot of women, they don't feel comfortable, or their husbands, they don't feel comfortable to send them here. Otherwise, the mothers who have young children like me, they would come and volunteer. They would do a lot more if you have that environment. What would you do about that?
I think let me answer that question, because your question is really, perhaps you have not come here often enough, because the MCD building, there are 2 separate doors for men and women.
Yeah, but this is the main masjid, right? That we use only for Jummah and every Ramadan.
Most of the activity happen there, actually.
What type of activities?
Lectures, seminars, all those kind of things, all those happen.
Yeah, but those are once in a while, right?
No,
I'm talking about earlier or activities for
You are the
families.
moderator, you are
for
not the
children.
candidate. She's asking question to candidate.
Actually, no, it was purely informational thing. It's not a question of
No,
opinion.
are you asking him or?
I'm asking the brother,
Yeah, so
yeah.
let him answer.
Okay, go ahead.
Again, I can only talk in generalities because I'm not on the board. I agree with you that there are constraints. This building was built back in 1970, and there have been talk of trying to renovate it, but there are constraints in terms of if you change anything, all the different codes will start applying to this building, and then so my understanding is based on being an outside observer that there has been a lot of discussion on the board to see if whether we need to demolish this building and build another building which is more adapted to the needs of today, because again, this is a 50-year-old building, or whether there can be modifications, because in addition to women, I'm really concerned about seniors and our handicapped folks out there that are not able to come to the masjid, because I know of at least one or two people that were very regular for Fajr prayers, and they don't, I'm not a regular of Fajr prayers, don't get me wrong, but they used to come, but they cannot come anymore because they cannot navigate the stairs. So there are, those are things that have to be addressed, but those are things I, as a candidate, cannot today address. But as if I'm selected to get on the board, then yes, we will have a discussion around that and see how we can make it better for everyone. And I would encourage the community, which to be able to give that feedback and input without involvement of the community. The uncles will sit, the 9 uncles will sit and decide on their own, right? Unless the community gets involved and don't give up and just say, hey, because the facilities are not there, I'm not coming. Still get involved and try to change things. It cannot be just done by the board. It has to be the total involvement.
So let's say changing this building is very hard, it's not possible. What will you say about using the MCC building? That's what ICCD or MCC, that building as a mosque?
No.
Cannot be?
No, that's a community center.
Muslim community center.
That's a Muslim community center built by the Muslims of this area.
Let's just
Yes,
keep
the
this,
Muslims will be using it.
okay. this-
We will be.
In the interest of time, because otherwise all these candidates will be left for, they will have time to
can I just make a quick comment and then you can go? First, thank you, Amran, for offering to serve as a volunteer position. You're not getting a salary, nothing. And I hope people in the audience recognize that. You have far better things to do than to be, coming here. And this is public service. You're not paying them a salary to do this, so be thankful to these people who are offering to serve. And that includes all of these people sitting here. The second is the biggest challenge. Look at the audience and look at the people in front of you. And they're all 50 plus here, right? Except for maybe a person here. Maybe not even one person.
Hadi.
Criticize people who were here yesterday and the people who are going to be here tomorrow. But what did you do to support that? What did you do as a person to support that? Think about that before, or maybe come up with an idea and then support that idea with constructive engagement rather than criticizing. So with that, thank you.
Is there any more question for Brother Kamran? No. Okay, so we'll move to the next speaker, Brother Usman Ismail.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. My name is Usman Ismail. Most people have seen me, but I never took a stage to speak or in a general gathering. I'll be brief. I joined this community in 2013. I was really amazed by the organization and the services it provides to the community. I came from downstate, and my job brought me to urban area, and I was working in different locations. and I was looking for a Muslim gathering, and I discovered the ICCD, and I only able to come to the Jum'ah prayer, and I hope that at some point, if I move to Albany area, I will be close to this area. So after I moved here, I was able to secure a residence close to the masjid, and since then I've been a regular attendee for the prayer, for the activities, for everything the ICCD has been offered. I'm really thankful for the people who are responsible for this great organization. We have a lot of resources here, but recently I've seen the decline of the attendance from our community and from the neighbors. So everybody knows that, and I was. So when the opportunity came that I can serve as the board member, I was really elected. But as a practice of democracy for this organization, eventually I decided to participate. No matter what the outcome of the election coming up, I will offer my service in advice, in volunteering, whatever it is. I'm offering my service to this community. I'm grateful for the community. For the first time in my life in this country, I was able to pray the 5 prayers in congregation. This is not something that you can find in this country. So because of the masjid is here, it's always here, the programs are here, and the kids go to school, and weekend school, and a lot of activities. But our community is not participating at the level we wish for. And that's something I think it's up for discussion for the program that can bring people in. You can tell people, hey, come to the masjid, do 5 prayers, but you have to have a program to engage people. And that's come with discussion. It's not an idea, it's not something people will agree on. From the board, from the community itself. But it's a lot on the plate. And we will offer our service, as I said, in or out, from the top or from the bottom. The other thing is I noticed that with multiple discussions, this masjid is old, this building here is old, and there are plans in the past to demolish or to upgrade or to build a new one, but the main factor is the resources.
Yes.
The resource is a big factor because building a masjid is not easy. And thank God we have in this community very generous members who are like carrying this organization on their shoulders. We know that, and we can see the result. I will have a suggestion because I don't think this has been tried before. Why don't we utilize the fund and the grants available to a community like us in the United States? Right now in Congress, there is a budget proposal for $1.5 trillion. That budget is full of grants available to a community like us. Why don't we utilize that? I don't think we've been utilizing that before, and I think it's a venue we can address, and I think it will save us some money. Instead of collecting the donation from the members and spending on expenses, no investment. That's not a good thing for us, and it's not sustainable. Since there is a chance that we can create programs, because our community is a refugee community, immigrants community, that can benefit from those programs. And I think that's a suggestion the board, the coming board or the current board, they can put into consideration. And I also, one point also, we have, as the brother mentioned, the mission of community, the organization itself, is to engage our members and our neighbors. We have a lot of stuff to offer to the neighbors. I think we can engage the neighbors more and personal. We can have program. This is just an idea, but we can sit all and decide what can we do to engage the neighbors, engage our members, create program for the youth, and it's a concept for everyone and the participation. And I come to the masjid every day. We have like a line, 2 lines maximum, the average. And the average age, I'm not that old, the average age is probably 50 years old. Where are the future Muslim people in the masjid? We don't drag, we see in Ramadan, the masjid is full. Young, old, women, children. But in the prayer, they are not there. We have to create something to engage them. We don't tell them come to the salah. We tell them come for a lecture, come for a conference, something like that. So like that, I think it's very important. These are the main points that I would like to address. And also I would like to extend my thanks to the people who put the trust in me and then they think that I can do something here. And as I said, in or out of the book, I will offer my services. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will urge all the candidates to tell the audience about what they will do if they are elected, rather than giving ideas, talking about the ideas. Please tell what you will do, what ideas you have, and if you want to fulfill, what will you do, rather than just state ideas. Thank you very much. Any question?
Thank you for, serving and coming to the masjid and being a regular. You have an excellent point in grants. That takes a lot of time. Would you be willing to put in that time? Because that $1.3 trillion that you said, is that for religious activities or community activities? Those grants.
What I said is 1.6 trillion is the proposed budget for the United States. Within that budget, there are provision for programs that benefit communities like us.
Communities or religious?
Communities, because we are not purely a religious community. We are just a community for, if I'm correct?
ICCD is a religious.
ICCD is, but ICCD is a religious, but we are 501 organization, and I think we pay taxes and we.
No, we don't.
We don't pay taxes. Non-profit, yeah, that's what I meant.
Yes.
Like there is a provision in the tax that we are a 501 corporation or organization that can benefit from those programs as long as we can show we have a program in place for the people.
So you are talking about doing these programs at the MCC?
Yes.
Not the ICCD? Because this is not for profit. And MCC is not for profit too, but it's a community center, so those funds to be used there.
We can, my understanding is the ICCD is under, MCC is under the ICCD, right?
But they operate their own time.
Yes, sir.
That's not the way.
Yeah, you know, I was kind of involved when we set up the organization. ICCD is the umbrella organization, which is a religious non-profit organization. Then MCC is more of a social, it's a non-profit under the ICCD umbrella, but it is allowed to do other activities. It's not listed as a religious organization. That's why we could get GE matches when we were getting fundraising. GE would match the funds. And that was the reason of keeping it as a separate organization, so that we could partake in some of these funds that may be out there.
Any more questions from Brother Ismail? Okay, then next is Dr. Said Khan. His letter I will read at the end. Dr. Jamshid.
children went to the weekend school. I am a board member since 2012. Before I was in NCC for 2 years. I was the vice president in 2016 and then president in 2017 and 2018. In my presidency, food pantry was started. In my presidency, I bought the second house where Hafiz is living. And Imam Patel house was burned by the fire in 2017. And we renovated that house. I started the GIFT program and the GIFT program in 2017. Now 55 students, boys and girls coming to this program. Girls are in the basement and boys are upstairs. They come in the evening from 5 to 8 p.m. And we have more students in the waiting list, about 8 students. In my presidency, we hired the full-time Imam, which is Mufti Naik Abbas Patel. He is very qualified, American-born and raised Imam, and he speaks English very well. He connects with the young people very well. He is in charge of the youth group. He is conducting the daily Islamic teaching program, and he is delivering the fantastic khutbah every Jummah and Friday Seerah class. With my effort, we started in 2012 the complete recitation of the Quran in the Tarawih, which is still going on. If I will be the board of the trustees, member of the board of trustees, then I will start the program for the girls and women. I will make sure that NCC gym will have a women only hours. I will make the masjid handicap accessible. If it is not possible, then we will get the new masjid. I will start more programs for the boys and girls. I will work the weekend school principal to improve the quality of education. I will work also with the Anur board and principal for the improvement and renovation of the school. Inshallah, we will come up with some plan about the renovation of the old building. I will start the program for the seniors also. I want this center to be #1 masjid in this area. I want the center to be attractive to the younger generation. I will make sure that everybody should follow the constitution. And I will ask everybody who are the voting member, please look at the work which I did in the last few years and then decide to vote. So, if anybody has a question, I will be ready to answer.
Question from the audience first. Yes,
Well, it's a comment and a question.
I'm sorry?
So, it's a comment and a question. So basically, 8-9 years ago, right, I was #1 in favor of bringing full-time imam to the community for a reason, right? So imam can bring activities, right? Imam can be here to meet people. Imam can be here address people issues. I don't see none of that. So let's go back to Saeed Khan. I used to tell him to be the full-time imam. Let's go to Dr. Tibo, if you remember. I told him, right? Let's go to Taib. I told him. Dr. Minhaz, I told him. Finally brought what? Full-time imam. But is he active?
No, he doesn't.
Let me finish. Okay. Is he active? No. Is he here all the time? No. Does he address other people's issues? No. None of you can bring activities. Only full-time imam with active imam that will know what he's doing. None of you can do it. And trust me now.
I agree.
Sister Sasa, if you want to say, 1% at a time.
I am agreeing with Brother Ayman. I understand we have imams that the imams, even in private khutbah, imams have said, we walk in, he doesn't even say salam, leaves doesn't say salam. His khutbahs, I don't think they were proper khutbahs. So I agree with Ayman. The imams bring, why Al-Hidayah have Jafar and they bring all the youth there? Because the imams are bringing the youth. We need the imams. It's not about the board. It's not about our board or your board. It's about bringing the proper imam who can relate to this youth, to the children, to the problems that our children have in the United States. That's what I mean.
Now, this question should really be asked not to from your organization.
I can answer.
Okay, if you
Brother
can
Jim
answer.
he brought Imam Patel that was doing programs. That's what Brother Michel said. He brought Imam Patel that he's doing successful programs. But it's not about only successful programs for 5 or 6 kids. It's about Brother Michel bringing or Samir or Kamal or Rahman or the other brother, the board bringing an Imam who can show a smile, who can be there for the community, who can be there for the young kids. That's what I mean.
You want to answer the question?
Who brings money? But the
Okay,
we have a senior in our time.
one person at a time, please, and don't talk among yourselves. Excuse me, sister.
Let's respect the process.
Sister, excuse me. Please don't talk among yourselves. Address the candidate. If you want to answer the question, otherwise the question should also be asked of Imam Patel rather than you. You are not responsible for it.
No.
Yeah, but go ahead, please.
Imam Mufti Patel went 7 years of education. He is a well-qualified, certified Imam. You are giving the example of Al-Hidayah. They don't have certified or well-qualified Imam. People are frustrated over there. They are coming here to attend the khutbah. I can give you a lot of examples. People are coming from Latham to attend the Imam khutbah here. So he is a well-qualified Imam. He has 25 children in the youth group. When you are coming to your club, you are seeing that the children are leaving. He is well connected with the children. He has a 10 children coming every night to learn from him. He is also overseeing the gift program also, where the 55 students are there. He is conducting the Seerah class. Problem is that people talk a lot, but they don't come and participate in the masjid. They don't come in the masjid every day, and they don't know the masjid problem. They are just hearing this thing, hearing this thing, hearing this thing. And I will discuss Imam, rather I have to speak like the employee of the masjid. He shouldn't speak in this meeting.
I think everybody should do that.
You are the employee of the masjid. If you start this thing that he is not here in the masjid, then I will tell you what you are doing. So please don't, you are the employee of the masjid, you cannot speak against the employee of the masjid.
I'm telling the truth.
No, you are the employee of the masjid.
Does it do anything? No. Right? Doesn't do anything. Tell me what he does. Tell me when people come for zakat.
Assalamu alaikum.
2-3 days ago it happened. People came for zakat. What's the imam? Tell me what's the imam.
Okay.
Right?
Again, it's not talking about an employee.
Calm down for a minute, and it's okay to address. Okay, sister, please do not talk to each other. I hope I don't have to repeat this again and again. Please.
They were asking me, so let me answer the question. Okay.
Arguing instead of answering.
Go ahead.
Yeah. As far as he may be employed, but everyone has the right to speak. He doesn't, it's not an election here that he's not, whether he can vote or not, that's a separate question. But freedom of speech, you cannot take from anybody, employee or no employee, imam or no imam. Imam has freedom of speech also, and everyone has freedom of, freedom to speak.
I think with all fairness, that was not a question, that was a comment.
He stated.
But this can be comment too.
No, that comment could be made at any time, but during a specific thing, that's more of an attack that needs to be handled properly.
Yes, I agree with that.
Right,
I agree
and
with that.
I'm not disagreeing with his comments. I do believe, and I will address that when my turns come, but at a certain point when raising that question is not appropriate.
Well, people
I mean,
can say
that
comments.
comment.
People can say comments.
I think we don't want to get into that thing because we will be here till tomorrow.
Right, I agree.
So, continue.
Yeah.
You continue.
My thing is that I am coming to the masjid every day. I am seeing my Imam Patel. He is standing in the pulpit answering their question. Imam Patel is not coming to the masjid. Who is coming to the masjid? Who is leading the prayer? He is the leading the prayer. He is answering the question. He is conducting the nikah more than anybody in the community. He is leading the janaza prayer. He is answering the kids' question and texting coming to every day to him. So if he is not speaking too much, I think some people like the people who are speaking to him. He is not speaking too much, but he is trying to function properly as an imam.
Can I ask a question?
Let's not talk about Patel, he's not even here.
Yeah, that's what my point was.
We're back.
The question about Imam Patel, actually, Dr. Minhas is a very, very active member. He has devoted a lot of his time to the masjid, but he is not responsible for other people's behavior or performance. And I don't need to be critical of Imam Patel at all. I don't take it that way.
So the question I have for all of you as a board or the elected board that's going to be elected, is there any way or a thought of any of you to replace all these imams and get fresh blood into this thing?
I think that question should really be better addressed in the board, and you probably should talk to the president.
Okay.
And he should raise the point in the board.
Okay. I hear. Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody have more questions from me? Yes.
Thank you for volunteering as a trustee for so many years, and good things and bad things both have happened. No one is perfect. My question is that how come all three imams and there's not a woman present to counsel the girls? Because a lot of teenagers need counseling. They're not comfortable going to a male imam. How come you, I need that addressed by all of you, but that is very important for the teenagers and the millennials.
Yeah, in my initial address, I told that I want to start a program for only women, only sister, and inshallah, if you will elect me again, and you will see a lot of changes this time. I was a president 2 years, I made a lot of changes here, and that's why it's all activity and increased population. If you come to the masjid between round about Maghrib time, you will see whole masjid is full of children of the stairs. So we are building the community, and they will be older and young, more older, then they will serve the community and they will be better Muslims. So,
Brother Jamshed, I just have a comment.
Just comments can follow this question, if you have a question.
The youngsters and the millennials, if you notice, they are different from us.
Yes.
We all agree on that. Our kids, even though we raised them in our Muslim households, turned out to be very different. The conservative form of masajids does not excite them. They are more of an activist and doers. They just don't want the religious education. They want something to do, something that makes a difference in the bigger community. And that has to be led by an imam.
yes.
So if we can have an imam who's interactive in interfaith, in communities outside our community, that should attract them. If you want to attract the young people, have a PlayStation arcade and see how many come, and then you bring them out for prayers. That's the way to attract them.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. When I started the youth group with Imam Patel in 2018, there are only 5 kids. Now 25 kids are coming. Why? when they come to the masjid, Imam Patel gives them a half an hour of Islamic teaching, then he will take them to the gym, he play with them, those 25, they play in the gym, and then Imam Patel gives them a pizza to eat. So these kind of activity will increase more. So this is going on in the masjid. So think that the people who are criticizing the Imam Patel, they don't know about these activities, they just say because another one Imam is saying salam loudly, he is not saying salam loudly and this and that. I mean, he is available every time people are going to his house also, people are talking to him also. There are a lot of things I did when I was the president, and inshallah if I come back I will do more things, and you will see the changes when I come back inshallah, if you will vote me.
Thank you very much.
Another thing came to mind about, if it's not Imam Patel's turn to do the khutbah, he's not even there, he's not at the mosque, or he comes just before prayer time. I don't know what the reason for that is.
No, again, he's coming on time, he's giving his khutbah, he is, whatever you want, somebody is coming on time, giving pure religious and khutbah. You want political khutbah and about government's thing, then we are not going anywhere.
The question is kind of such a direct question about Imam Patel. Dr. Minhas is not his boss.
I realize, yes, I do, but it's just, you're trying to highlight.
These are candidates for the next term. Those questions I think more suitably directed at the current board of trustees. I am happy to be one of those. You can ask me that question after this meeting.
But can I make a comment?
Yes.
With all due respect, you're saying that people should not be addressing issues with Imam Patel. The reason they're addressing them is because Dr. Minhas mentioned that he's doing a fantastic job. So people are commenting on that they disagree with that statement. That's the reason people are making those comments.
I understand that, but still, so many questions about his, what he is doing day to day. I don't think Dr. Minhas has to defend. He gave his opinion, and but he really is not keeping time on his activities, and on that part, I think that's expecting too much.
And still, I stand behind my statement that he is doing a fantastic job in teaching the children, which is our future.
That's fair. You stated your opinion and other people stated their opinion, and we just leave them as opinion.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Okay, now, yes.
I have one question for Dr. Minhas. So I think I'll try to sum it up and make sure it's a question, because that's what we're here for. It sounds like a lot of the things you want to do, I applaud. I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Obviously, you guys know what my position is right now. But it seems like a lot of the things you're saying is that I will do this, I will do this, I will do this. Just as a reminder, we're here for a Board of Trustee candidacy, which is 1 out of 9 people. This isn't for president or vice president. So my question to you is, how are you going to implement all of these things that you're saying you're going to do? The list you said, I will do this, I will do that, being 1 of 9 people on the board. Because you can't answer as president because you haven't gotten there yet. So as Board of Trustee, as 1 of 9, and I would ask the same to all of you guys, is how on your to-do list are you going to implement that, considering you've already been on the board for the past 5 to 10 years? And if those things haven't been done yet while you were on the board, how is that going to change if you're re-elected for the 1 of 9? And then it's a question?
I think, can I amplify your question? I think what he's trying to ask of all of you is your ability to work with others to accomplish. You are only one person, there are 9 members of the board. How can you work? Are you capable of working well with others to accomplish this? So that's the question perhaps.
When I was the president and I told you what I did, in 2 2 years, none of the board members voted against of any my plan. I know how to handle the board, I know how to handle the imam, and I know how to work together. Whenever I presented something to the board and I convinced them and they voted for me, not a single time, not a single vote came against me when I was a president. That's why I'm saying when I will become president again, I will inshallah do the more work for this masjid with the cooperation and dua of every of you.
One question, there are some anonymous questions here, and I'm being selective in there because some people make direct attacks, and I don't think that's we are here to just fight and get involved with personalities. There's one question I would ask somebody saying why you did not attend most board meetings, so you can defend yourself.
This is a very good question, and I can tell you the summary why I did not attend the board meeting for a couple of board meetings. I am attending the board meeting for the last 9 years. Couple of months I am not attending because there was a constitutional issue. Board was not following the constitution. If you want to go into detail, I can tell everything here. And that I was protesting that the board should follow the constitution of the ICCD. Board was not following the constitution. As a protest, I was not attending the meeting for the last few months, but I restarted attending the meeting. If you want more detail, I can tell you the detail also. Anybody wants detail?
Well, I think for your own satisfaction, I would suggest that you just, in a few sentences,
The community, the numbers are not speaking, they're speaking against people are moving away to the community, that is a concern. The reason I'm running is because currently, as far as to the best of my knowledge, there is no one on the board right now, or based on this list of candidates here, in the future, anybody with school-going young children would, serving on the board. So that constituency is not addressed here. That is not representing on this board. This is where we need to work the most. And we talk about community. Communities are built on two things. One is, I agree with what Brother Ivan said, that is a fact, that imams build communities, not boards. Board member, as far as I know, I rarely see any board member here, in a masjid. When I come, I don't come that much, but I do come to the masjid. I only see them on Fridays. And obviously, it's not their role to be here. It's the imams that have been, to be here. The only thing I would say is it's not just Imam Patel. I understand he is socially not as active as I would like him to be. Absolutely. But his khutbahs are prepared. He is preparing and giving good khutbahs, not like some other imam. Do I need to mention the name? I mean, you understand that. Exactly. So just attacking one imam is not right. We need to look at it both. There are weaknesses on both them. But it's not the imam first, it's the board. The board are supposed to hold their imams accountable, isn't it so? Why aren't we asking those tough questions? Why are we not asking them to do the right things? This is something that the board has to do. If you don't take those actions, that's what is necessary. If you don't take those actions, that's where the organization will fall apart. And we have seen what's happening to some of these communities here. We don't need great buildings here. MCC is great, we have that building. But that building is not a community. Community is people. What are we doing to attract members here? We only, the community has been shrinking, as mentioned earlier, and this is exactly what's happening. And this is where I want to work on. This is where I want to do something about this community, that how can we continue to, at least hold on to the people that are here and bring in more people to this community. For me, myself, I am, I'm living 5 minutes from here, but I have to send my kids to Al-Hidayah for education. The only reason I'm forced to live here is because I want my kids to go to a new school. I mean, these are the things that we are facing. And I would like to ask, I have actually reached out to board members and I haven't got a satisfactory response. That's why I'm running for this. And I know for sure, for one thing, that if I am elected, I'm more concerned about getting elected than non-elected, because it's a huge responsibility. If I'm elected, I know I will have sleepless nights, because I have to serve. If I'm not serving, I have to respond. I should be, responding to the community. But most importantly, when Allah asks me, what have I done? How am I going to respond? Have I privilege to serve on this? And how can I use an excuse that I'm not doing this for getting paid? I'm asking Allah for the reward. If I'm not putting my effort in, it's a concern. That's why I would say that go without finding a replacement.
I'm talking about 3 good things. So repeat, I'm not asking for a criticism. I'm asking 3 good things that you see. Positive people think of positive things. I'm asking you to think of 3 good things as a person in the audience of my future board representative. Can you see 3 good things that the past leadership has done? Forget about me. There are many people who come here to serve.
They started his program. I don't know when it started and so forth. I do not know of, because I'm not on the board to tell me what specifically they have done. Board. Obviously, they have built a masjid. There is a big, building here, and they have, fundraising takes a lot of effort to do that. That's great, absolutely. And the thing is that we have a great gym there that it can attract young, younger adults to come and be part of the masjid. So that those are the great things. But
now, how do you make those 3 things better?
What I'm looking at is we need to have the engagement of the community.
Specifically,
that's what I'll tell you this is the best of my knowledge on specific, because specifics is like you are supposed to be, you are on the board, you need to tell us what you try what we didn't try, right? Because that's the right we have. I'm on a board, I will have the opportunity and I will see what exactly is missing, what's not. Speaking on specifics would then occur because at this moment, I don't know what constraints you have, what you have tried, what you have not. And I have spoken to you even in this hall 9 months ago. And I would like to ask here, take this opportunity, I have an email that's printed out, that's from Brother Samir here. I asked him what is taking place. He responded to me that in 3 months we have taken specific steps. In 3 months you will see huge differences. You will see what we have done. And that's when the meeting took place. And after 5 months, I spoke to him. I asked him, like, I have not noticed any difference. Not me, just me, that's gonna, currently this is, there are other people who may not have the opportunity to move, or they may not, that may move somewhere and lose out on it. We need to serve this community. If we are here to serve Allah, we want to serve the community, rather than trying to find excuses of, we are unpaid or we are, voluntary and so forth. That's what I'm trying to convey here.
So you're trying to tell me that I've been offering excuses to you. I solicit, and let's not make it into one back and forth.
Yes.
I asked you to help me help you and your children and all the other children, and you turned that down. You said you wanted to do your job. That was your statement. So let's just, and I'm not going to make any more statements after this.
Right.
You turned me down.
No,
right?
I spoke to you. How long were you communicating with my sir, that's okay. Let me respond. I wanted to help you. I wanted to do everything in terms of what is in my power. But you're telling me what we need to do, where we have been communicating back and forth with you for months, 2 months. And then you told me that my wife is, has cancer. I understand that you are busy.
Let's not talk about my wife, okay? Let's just keep
I'm
that.
not talking about your wife.
Let's not repeat that again. I'm asking you not to repeat that again, okay? Let's keep that out of this conversation.
Let's stop.
No, but that's
I said you just stop that, okay?
Excuse me, let's stop there, because I think there is a question more that you should be able to answer.
Right.
There is a factual information.
Right.
I will come back to you. You were a member of the Untitled School Board?
Yes, sir.
Would you please tell what you did there? That's much more.
I'm not trying to put something in place. 2 months or 3 months after, actually 2 months after I joined, COVID happened. We had to go through a lot of, in terms of how we run the school and everything else, we had to do quite a bit. We started a HIFS program there that wasn't present, and that happened within I've been a member for now a little over a year, or a year and a half. I've been working with the principal, and if you have any question, I know many of you speak, the principal, you can talk to the principal on that. If what I have put in the effort, we have discussed rebranding and really putting, making a new school stand out. We have put in a lot of that type of effort, and if you want specifics, the best way is you can verify with the principal what effort I have put in to, even automating some of the donation collection, how we tracking and all of that, I have put that effort in with them.
No, we give everybody an opportunity to tell.
Right.
So you don't have to go to ask him.
Right.
Confirm.
I'm confirming. That's what I'm saying. I said that. You can confirm with them.
No, I'm saying.
But that's what I'm saying. We started this program there. We have, last year we had 6 students, even some of them were coming in at early before school right now, primary school or so forth. So those are discussions not really at a new school board, they need to take place at ICCD. We need to decide what are we going to do, what step needs to be taken. I know, I have seen this, I would rather not go into this type of discussion, but one of the things is that I have seen in the previous fundraiser, the new school board, a new school building is supposed to demolish, and a plaza has been going to be put up, and apartment buildings will be built on top of that. How is that going to be achieved? What does that mean for a new school? No one has been able to give me a response on that.
Okay.
And that's something that needs to come from ICCD board.
There's one last question for Brother Yunus. You have a question?
Yes, I have a question. I think I'm the youngest one in this room, but I have a quick question. So what specific actions do you have to attract youth and like, I was talking to like, some community members and like, I was saying like, maybe we could have like a young Muslim like professional like group or something to attract people around my age. Like whenever I come to Isha at the masjid, it's like, I'm the only one there and like, I feel kind of alienated,
And one of the things that I have seen, because since I've come to this community, one of the things I've seen with young adults in general, like, especially those who are about to go to college or graduating from college, there's not much of a networking taking place. First of all, when people are going to college, they choose fields without really knowing what they're getting themselves into. We should have career fairs in the community. These students should come in and get connected to people who are in the field, and they should have a better understanding of what field that they would get engaged in, right? So if somebody wants to become a doctor, somebody are there, we have those people in the community. When these students come and speak to them, they will have a better insight, not understanding what they're doing, even because the schools are not, because they chose their own field, or they chose, they had money to do. This is something, because the communities are built based on these. If they have attention to come back to school, they continue to come back to masjid, they will have the network, right? One of the things we are doing that, I work with Brother Sahib, encourage you to do. Right now, they have an after-school program. Even those who graduated, they come back and attend the after-school program. Because they are retaining that connection back with the school. And this is what we need to encourage, that they have a sense of belonging. And one of the things I feel that has happened to this community is that we are left with, essentially, in most instances, we are left with passive people who are not really engaged. That's why we're not getting a lot of people to volunteer. When we have active people, then people
this meeting is about telling what you will do.
That's what I am trying to do.
You have not said anything about how will you accomplish that, because these things have been done here. I myself brought specialists for that kind of a person, had lectures in the past. People have done, but it is very easy to talk the generalities. When you start doing, like Brother talked here about writing grants, I have written numerous grants, and people don't really think about these things and start talking about without knowing little. Till a responsible person asks questions, then also really looks deeply into what will be involved to do it. People talking just in generality, I do this, will do this, that doesn't do much good.
Well, that's exactly the thing. Let me actually respond to that. Earlier, it was said here that one person cannot do anything because we need to work with all 9 members of the board to accomplish something. This is where the discussion needs to take place, and the ideas need to be floated and then discussed, debated, and that's when you come up, okay, this is what we need to do. Isn't that part of the board to work together? This is what we need to do.
What you say has been done million times. I have served on the board for many years. Has been done.
I agree. And here's what I'll give you a short answer on that. Very short answer. If you feel that, and the members feel that all of these ideas have been tried and put in effort, you don't need me. Don't work with me.
No,
actually, no.
I'm sorry. You have to cut off because right. Samir Salama, brother.
Dr. we're playing in 3 minutes, so maybe it's a good time to take a break. I'll come back up unless
I think we should finish.
They're going to call the event the whole time, Bill. That's what we're just letting you know.
I'm sorry?
You cannot shut off the mic.
I can hear you.
You cannot shut off the speakers here.
3 minutes, that's what I'm trying to tell you.
I thought, Asad, we can delay, let us finish this. Because if we leave, many people won't even be back. Brother Samir, please.
You're the one, I'll follow your lead. Whatever you tell me to do, I'll do.
I'm sorry?
Without the speaker, they can do.
Can you hear me?
I think
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
So is the consensus to continue?
Yes.
Yes.
Is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Submit?
I don't know, again, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. You're the moderator, so whatever you tell me to do in this forum, I'll follow. I know some people feel uncomfortable not
Please.
praying in the Jumu'ah.
Continue.
Okay, inshallah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد وباركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Samir Salama. As a way of introduction, for those of you who don't know me, I have been married for the last 38 years to the same wonderful woman. I have 3 grown children, all of whom attended the weekend Islamic school. And now I'm the quote-unquote proud grandfather of 3 healthy grandchildren, alhamdulillah. Again, as a way of introduction, just so that you know where I'm coming from, I have a bachelor's degree from the University of Illinois, a master's from Berkeley, a PhD from Stanford and RPI. Alhamdulillah, all of them in engineering. I worked for the same company for 38 years as a chief engineer, and I'm currently also an adjunct professor at UAlbany. I am very happy to say also that I performed my Hajj in 2001, and I was blessed to have been able to perform that Hajj with my father, who passed away 5 months after that. So that's a true blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I have been a member of this community since 1994. And over the last 27 years, I have lived in this community almost uninterruptedly, except for a 3-year span between 2012 and 2015. In those 27 years, I've had the privilege, and I really mean this privilege, and the honor to have served as Vice President of the ICCD, a member of the Board of Trustees of the An-Nur School, so I know the challenges that those members go through, member of the Cemetery Committee, and of the Imam Search Committee as well. In my tenure as member of the Board of Trustees of the ICCD in the earlier days, I had the privilege again to serve with dear respected brothers such as Brother Niaz Ahmed, the father of our current president, Brother Ikram Hasib, Brother Tariq Niazi, Brother Muhammad Ismail. So I'm naming the names of people who were founders of this community, and I learned a lot from them. In those days also, we endured our share of crisis compared to the crisis that we had to go through in 2001, 2011, 9/11. Anything that we can go through right now seems insignificant, but not unimportant. I don't want somebody else to misquote me on what I'm saying. For example, we had Imam Hanuti, who was our Imam, named as an unindicted co-conspirator in 9/11. And that was a huge negative reflection on the ICCD. Alhamdulillah, with the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we managed to survive and surpass that crisis. We met with the people from the Times Union. They retracted that piece of news. I met with the community in this same hall just to inform the community, got their feedback, follow the advice of CARE. My point is we've gone through a lot in this community, certainly in the last 27 years that I've been with this community. So I know, I have a little bit of experience with crisis in this community. We had a very deep crisis here in this community that split the community in two halves. That's how the Al-Hidayah basically was formed, if you will. Why am I saying all of this? I'm saying this because in order to move forward, sometimes you have to look back. And you need a steady hand on the board that is not going to act emotionally, and instead of trying to fight the fire, actually create more of a fire. You need to be able to read the signs before a crisis comes up. And I'm afraid that you've just had a little taste for what is going on in this community. I'm afraid there is a crisis coming. And I urge you to be very careful, to all of us here at this table. Don't let your emotions guide you. I like the words that I've heard before, that you are here to serve, to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to look for His pleasure, to look for rewards there. No one is saying that because you don't pay me, I'm not going to do my best. I think that was implied, unfortunately. Brother Cameron was very gentle in what he said, but it was misquoted later. So yes, we don't get paid, and we don't want to be paid, because we want all the reward to come in the akhirah rather than in the dunya. So no, the fact that I'm not getting paid is no excuse for not doing my job properly as a member. A lot of things have been said, and I will defend myself for some of the things that were mentioned by one of the members at this table. A very unfair accusation, half-truths, partial truths, and plain lies, but were partially mentioned. It has been mentioned many times already here in this session that we need to attract the youth. The youth is not going to be attracted if they find that the board is in disarray, if the board is disorganized, if the board is in inside fights. The youth is going to be totally discouraged. It's unfortunate that the two youngest people that were in this, attending this, had to leave, and alhamdulillah, may Allah reward them. They went to pray. Because I think they would back me up on that. When they sense that the board is full of inside fights, and I say this because I lived through those times. When I was a board member back in the late 90s, early 2000s, that was the state of the board. It was fights and splits and two teams. I used to dislike coming to the board meetings because I didn't know if what I was going to say was going to be mistaken as something completely opposite to what the intent was. Nobody knew what the other person. People came with different agendas, and not really for the benefit of the community necessarily, but just for personal gains. Maybe they didn't feel that when they were doing it. But I can tell you one thing. Two of the people that were acting in that form later approached me many, many years later and apologized for their behavior on the board. And I just want to, again, my point here is, please don't let your emotions drive or overtake your good intentions. So youth programs are very valuable, very, very important. But again, it has to come from the top. If the board is a stable board, is one that speaks with one voice. And no, we don't agree on everything as was implied. We don't pat each other on the backs every time that we completed a meeting and say, good job, good job. We have serious discussions, but we have decent discussions. And we compromise. And we reach consensus, and we move forward. Secretary and one other member, the treasurer and another member, are what I consider youth. And alhamdulillah, we have that. It was that young leadership team that alhamdulillah was able to guide us properly during the COVID. They were the ones who arranged the YouTube lectures that we had. They were the ones who arranged all the online programs that we had, all the WhatsApp talks and channels that were created. All of that was done primarily by the youth and the young people that are leading this board of trustees. And I want that to continue. I want to continue to attract the young people to the board. We need to create a stable board environment that is capable of attracting young people. Now, in terms of specifics, as the moderator has told us many times, what specifically would you do? First of all, again, I just want to reiterate that youth must take the reins of the Board of Trustees, and they have to continue to do so. Older people like myself need to provide a role, and they can flourish. We need to advise, not discourage these young people. We need to allow them to grow in their maturity, in their way of leading this community. And then, again, we need to provide that stable environment for them to lead us properly. Youth programs that I think would be useful here, in no particular order. The tutoring program that we had at one point was, I thought, a successful one, but unfortunately just died out. I was an active participant of that, where students used to come to my house, or I used to go to the Noor school and tutor students there. A young professionals group. I like that idea because I do help people at GE, young people, students at UAlbany, trying to help them find their career. So I think in this community we have a lot of people that can offer that kind of advice. Why not? I mean, it sounds very secular and very mundane, but pizza and a movie. Why can't we have those kind of events once in a while? Soccer tournaments. We have the facilities here. Why can't we have soccer tournaments or other things that can attract the youth at the MCC? There was a very successful event that Imam Yaki used to lead when he was leading the youth program that he initiated. And it was to go visit and upgrade the cemetery, the old cemetery. And from a handful of people to 15, 20 of them actually joined one time, and the feedback was wonderful. They loved that kind of thing. So there are things that we can do to attract the youth. Somebody talked about grants, and I think that's a great idea. At one point, we actually had a new school look into the possibility of hiring an individual dedicated to writing and putting up proposals for grants. Because as a educational institution, I think there are more opportunities for a new school to get grants than for the ICCD as a religious organization. The infrastructure of the masjid definitely needs some care, and it is one of the top 3 things that we've been looking into. Upgrading the infrastructure of the mosque is one. Tearing down that ugly looking building next to the new school is another one. And I think we should look at all those, the 2 that haven't been done, we need to look at those carefully and start doing that. Particularly one of them was not properly prepared for the khutbahs that were being delivered. And so we said, we'll take care of that. We'll take care of that. Another member of the board and myself made that make that statement and said, we are going to take care of that. And over the following 2 or 3 months, we did meet with the imams. I say we, but really it was the other member actually that did most of the work. And through those conversations, we conveyed the concerns of the community. To one of them, we said, you are not coming prepared enough to your khutbahs, you need to fix that. To the other one, we said, your khutbahs are well prepared, but we need you to be a little bit more socially active with the community. And so as a result of that, we had a schedule of khutbahs that was published with a subject, not only who was going to deliver it, but what was the subject of the khutbah. And again, during that period, we had the parking lot paved. So I thought we had made some progress in direct response to the request of the community. In Ramadan, following one of the prayers, this member did come to me and say, "What have you done? You haven't done anything. You promised me you were going to do something." And I said, "Brother, if you haven't seen the change and the improvements that we have made, then I don't think a few words for me to tell you are going to make any difference." Those were my words. I did not say anything else, nothing remotely similar to what was quoted today. And I'll repeat, I said, "Brother, over the last 3 months, we have made changes." And I just told you what those changes were. I told you in this audience. But if you haven't noticed those changes, then words from me at this point are going to change your mind or make you see them. If you haven't seen them, then it's not because they haven't happened, but because you don't want to see them. And in my mind, I was saying, something that I learned, there is no worse blind person than the one who doesn't want to see what is in front of them.
Father Samir, your time is...
Okay, in response to that, actually, that person, as I was talking, turned his back on me and left me speaking on my own. And says, "Okay, you go ahead and live on your bubble. You love power, so stay living in your bubble." So, and I'll leave it at that. Because I felt that I had to say something to defend my people that know me here would not have reconciled the version of my response to the way that they know I react. So
thank you very much. 2 questions. Okay, one.
Is he allowed to?
Please be brief.
Last question for you. That could be for any board member or current board member, right? Now we've seen it, right? We go and run around, right? For the same goal, which is how can we bring activities, right, to here? How can we bring this masjid back to life? Besides the 2 hours out of the day, those imams can do, right? That's it, 2 hours. Anyhow, with the current imams, right? How can you fix the situation? I'm not saying to fire anybody. How can you do it? This question for you and anybody who can answer that. Even Dr. P or Zubair, but still I'm not informed. Anybody can answer that. Action plan. Are you going to follow, right? Are you actually going to do it? Are you actually tell them, you did this, you did not do that? Are you going to do that?
Did anyone understood what Brother Ayman said?
Yes.
Okay.
So, do you want me to repeat the question in case?
Yeah, please. Because
So I think the question
understand.
was, what specifically are you planning to do with the current imams in order to resolve the issue of lack of participation from the youth?
Yes.
Is that a fair paraphrasing of your question? So
All of us are asking the same
we
question.
have, the board have created a liaison between the board and the imams precisely with that purpose in mind, to convey the concerns that the community has, not only in regards to the lack of participation, but also the youth programs. And it has not borne any fruits yet, but that's what we are going to do. We're going to continue to work with them, with the current imams. Imam Yaki used to, in my opinion, more than 3-4 years ago, used to have a very active youth program. For those of you who haven't been here more than 3 or 4 years, it may come as a surprise. But that was a very successful youth program. And again, if you don't want to admit that that was the case, that's your prerogative. But one of the things that he used to do, and it's the one that sticks to my mind, was go to the cemetery and take the young people there. And they love to do that. The feedback we got was that.
Brother Samir, I think you have explained that. Just one more question, we are running out of time.
Can I respond to that question too?
Yeah, he said,
right.
Ayman said that anyone.
You know, imams are essentially, at the end of the day, they're reformed to the board. The board has to put down specific objectives and measure those objectives, how much they're succeeding against those. Thank you. How much are they, progressing against those objectives? But at the same time, we have to give them some level of authority. They don't have to come to the board for every single thing to get a permission on. This is one of the things we were getting from Imam Patel, is saying that I can't do this because the board is, you know, the board has to allow me to do this, give us permission. So one of the things is that if you're going to give someone a responsibility, it's a basic principle that you have to give them some authority to go with it. Otherwise, they will not be able to exercise and execute whatever responsibility that has been given to them. So that's something we must do in order for them, to empower them and to you know, whatever objective the board puts to you know, forward for them to, you know, to work against.
Can I just make a quick?
Can I respond if I can respond to, you know, at GE we used to have goals and objectives. That's my experience. And basically, if we want to have people, you got to set goals and objectives and then follow up with them. We used to have quarterly reviews on our goals and objectives with our boss. And the objectives were very specific. This is what you're going to do this quarter. And then we would be reviewed by our boss. And I'm not saying that the board is the boss or whatever. I'm just saying that it's a give and take where you discuss, hey, these were the goals that were established for this quarter. What did you achieve? That puts a little bit more responsibility and ownership on the person.
Okay, Zubi, 1 minute, then you 1 minute, and that's it.
Yeah, and I'm like, clear.
Yeah, people, you wanted 1 minute each.
Only if everybody allows me, I was going to also answer Eamon's thing. It might actually answer a lot of these things that I think Dr. Benassi and further going to say.
Just try to be.
So I can tell you guys recently that the entire board for the past 3 months have been working on new contracts for all 3 imams. We've actually just finally finished them, and they specifically outline some of the issues that we've noticed over the past few years with each imam, because each one of them has their own, set of challenges. So we've just implemented those, and like Samir said, we have a liaison now who I believe is going to speak in a second, who's actually going to be working with the 3 imams on their contracts, and Brother Zubair, I put them all together. So a lot of them spell out a lot of the issues and the concerns. But furthermore, they spell out the fail-safes and how to address should an issue arise with each of the imams as complaints have come up. So I hope that kind of answers Eamon's question, and I think, because I know Brother Yunus is limited because he's not on the board, obviously. And this is all public knowledge because, again, the meeting minutes are public. Should anybody ask, you're allowed to ask the secretary at any time.
Okay, thank you.
I asked for them, I was not provided. Just for
Okay,
Thank you for letting me know that. In the future, just always let me know, and we can get it.
Before you, 2 people was 1 minute? Okay, 1 minute.
I think we need a more community meeting like we used to have every 3 months here to get the community feedback, and we need a general body meeting every year. Changing the constitution will not solve the problem. We have to follow the constitution, and we have to work for the betterment of the community and betterment of our future for the children also. And we have to start a lot of programs, and I need the support of everyone.
Thank you for the opportunity to, for your time to come and listen to us. This closing statement, I guess? Or?
I think there are questions.
1 minute for what?
I think we have a question.
Listen, I have enormous patience. I can be here all night. But I don't think.
My question is only from the old members, the one who are already.
But I think he has a mic. Let him finish. He's 1 minute. Yeah, go ahead, 1 minute.
You know, I know that a lot of the audience may not like my direct conversation, because I like to talk directly, and I would like to, brother, I would accept my mistakes easily. I mean, I don't have, nobody has to remind me. Brother Tipu, if I offended you, I'm sorry. I meant to say, you had mentioned that, I didn't have to mention your wife, but all I had to say,
You had no business talking about my wife.
no, what I meant to say is that you have your personal issues, that's what you had told me, so, that's why we couldn't coordinate further, so with no disrespect, okay? But at the end of the day, we need to be clear and have clear conversation on how to move forward, right? And I discuss things is I'm direct. I don't need to beat around the bush and try to figure out what is wrong, what's not. That's why we need to really realize what we are doing wrong, what we are doing right, and try to do the things. If I'm missing something, and if you have tried all of the different things and it's not working, why are they not working, right? So that's what I would say is that, and at the end of the day, you know exactly what has taken place, what needs to be done. I know most board members, most of the other members are aware. They have come to me, and a single imam was attacked multiple times here for Imam Patel being late. I know that Imam Yaqi has been late. On one occasion, we were held up for 15 minutes for 15 minutes for Jummah. And then Imam Patel came in and did the Jummah. And also, in addition to that, there's been a lot of other issues, so we could go on talking about specifics, but there's no time for specifics, so we'll just leave it at that.
Okay, the last one.
Now his wife has a question.
Oh, yes, you.
I have a question for both old members, the one who are already in there. What they think, what they did wrong in last three years when they were in the board, and do you have any regret what they did wrong, and what is their plan, what they going to do best this year, what's their new plan this year? For the next 3 years that they can do better, why should we elect you again? Why should we elect you?
I can answer that. I'm currently a board member and I'm stepping down from our position. I was reminded that people are power hungry, and just to prove them wrong, I'm stepping down from my role. But also, I'm not being next time. There's one thing I can take credit for, and that is to bring in some of the to make a serious effort to bring young people into the board, because I think it's time for that generation to step into that role, and for us, the older people, to step down and perhaps guide them if needed, if asked for. Unsolicited advice, be happy to provide that, but I think, so my biggest regret is that I wish we have a place that's flourishing, but it is not, and that's a fact which was pointed out, and I couldn't agree more with you. Like I said, look at the audience. How many kids do we see in the audience? None. It's a challenge. It's a challenge that we had faced, and I am for you. I'm going to throw this back to you. How many of you are sitting here and your children are at home? Why are they not here? Or they maybe showed up today? Well, they're here today. You're here today. I'm being very blunt with you. You're here today. No. You will reach out. I'm going to now, let's not get personal about this. Please. So let's not get it. I admit my failures. I'm not blaming you. As a board of trustee of not being able to do a better job of attracting youth in this program. I'm not blaming you. I'm saying there was something that I was not able to provide that didn't attract you to this place. You meaning the youth, not you the person. So that's my regret, biggest regret. Something that I can be proud of is that if I die tomorrow, there is a Muslim cemetery across the street where I can be buried. It's a clean, organized, professionally managed cemetery, which will be there, and hopefully we can grow that and have maybe, we are thinking about expanding that, acquiring another 500 graves, because 2 things are certain in life, or maybe people say 3 things: death and taxes, right? So we will all die. That is a reality. We're going to need a place to be buried. And alhamdulillah, this place provides you with a place across the street where we can be But then it's so convenient, it's clean, it's professional, it's organized, and that's one thing that I can take pride in. But I admit my failure that I was not able to do a better job of being able to, and that's a challenge that you who are offering to volunteer to serve will face. And I wish you good luck, I wish you success, and that's all I have to say.
Can I just have to add?
Hold on, please. I am going to let this thing do the time now.
Hold on one second. Sister Nargis's question was directed to Brother Samir and Brother Minhas. Her question was directed to Brother Samir and Minhas because they're re-upping. That what were these two people's regrets and what are you going to change? So I don't think they got a chance to answer. I think by accident.
Okay.
Minhas and Samir.
Dr. Minhas is giving up his 1 minute to his son.
I'll give to Samir.
He has to answer his wife. What's wrong with you? That's a very
Mr. Beg, don't leave.
That will be planted question.
Assalamu alaikum. And anyone who claims that they don't have regrets is probably lying to themselves. I have regrets.
You have?
Of course. One of my regrets is not having been able to follow up with an initiative that I've been pushing for a long time, which is classes for new Muslims. We, unfortunately, okay, I'm not going to make a speech out of this, so that's one of my regrets. Right? We get new Muslims in the community, people that declare their Shahada, and then we never create a welcoming environment for them to continue to come back. And again, I don't mean for them to come to lectures, which is important, but what about a movie? What about a gathering in somebody's home to make them feel part of the community? It's a big step. I personally attest to that. It's a big step to accept Islam. So you need that. So my regret was not being more forceful with our imams. Again, this goes back to the question that was being asked earlier, and make them accountable for this. And I will be willing to participate and be part of that. So that's one regret. Along regrets is that we had promised the community that after the MCC was built, what was the next priority? An-Nur School. And we really haven't done anything for the An-Nur School. At least the infrastructure of the An-Nur School. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed us with a great principal who has done a fantastic job. But from an infrastructure point of view, we haven't done the things that we should have done for the An-Nur School. Speaking of infrastructure, the masjid needs to
You have
go.
taken 2 minutes.
I'm sorry?
You have taken 2 minutes.
Okay. Am I done?
Yes, you're done. Okay.
Was it a two-part question or just regrets? What am I going to do? So I'm going to, if I didn't take waste, right? So there we go.
Okay, yes. Hadi, you have a last question.
No, I thought that he was
Go ahead, done.
No regrets? He has no regrets.
I explained in my first speech everything what I did and what I got.
What's your regrets?
He has no regrets. He's doing good.
My regret is I was not able to fulfill all the things which I mentioned in last 3 years. I wanted to do lot of work, but due to unavoidable circumstances, I was not able to do. Inshallah, if I am elected again, I will do next year.
Okay.
So I want to thank everyone behind the table. Obviously, everyone cares about the masjid. Everyone has different views and perspectives. So what, I've been a part of this committee a long time. I grew up here. What I've seen successful masjids do, both in this area and outside of this area, the number one thing really, and this is the function of a masjid, is worship. And worship focus masjids, because ultimately we're coming here to pray to God, pray to Allah. And the masjid here has done a lot of work in other areas, and that's very good. But and this question is for everybody on the table. What's the vision going forward to making ICCD again a worship-focused community? Because I've seen this community in decline for 25 years.
I think they all had their chances to tell their vision. So I don't
worship, in terms of worship, making this a prayer-focused community. What are we doing?
Brother,
That's my.
by the way, my answer, I will answer for them.
Nobody asked. I don't want to hear from anyone else. Just
I'll just give a quick 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
I mean, I think great question. You know, worship, in my opinion, is much broader than five salahs.
Of course.
So everything that we talked about, and that's in the purpose of listed in the constitution of the ICCD, is all worship.
Right.
Dawah is worship.
Right.
Having activities which attract the youth here is worship.
I asked this question
So
because if you go to
you ask the question.
the masjid is full.
Okay.
So that's how I define worship, and I said so. All the things that people have talked about in terms of trying to get to get engagement and make this a welcoming place is, I think, related to worship, and that's what's going to improve the worship. Because if there are a bunch of kids playing soccer and it's Asr time, they're going to go pray Asr. That's the idea. You know, get them here, make it a community center, so that people will come in.
I think, Amran, you have answered so well that nobody needs to say anything anymore about it.
But I also wanted to appreciate the people who came out here and were very engaged. That is great. That's a good start. And so I appreciate it. I hope that we can all have the fortitude to, you know, keep. And then I think
Sister Malia, I cannot say no to her.
I just have one question. We are engaged, but it's nothing personal, and there is no politics. If there is going to be politics, you are going to bring the politics in there.
Me?
No.
Okay, now
this is the piece to get in everyone's head.
Sister Maria, now I am going to use my authority as a chairperson letter, and I would like all of you to sit down and listen, and then in the end I will address only one issue, very briefly, in 2-3 sentences. Okay, Dr. Said Khan writes, "Let me first apologize to you for my absence today on this important Meet the Candidate evening. Me and my family booked this vacation months ago, and the dates could not be changed. I thank Board of Trustees and the Election Committee for allowing me to communicate with you through the open letter. I have following points to make." He is a very thoughtful person, and so are everybody else. Why do I want to run for Board of Trustees? I had the honor of serving on the Board of Trustees for 6 years, and serving as its president for 2 years. Times have changed. I feel that ICCD needs a new direction and vision in the leadership, which is more inclusive of all the cultures and ethnic differences in our community. We need to be more respectful, accommodative, and proud of our cultural differences at ICCD. Remember, unity is strength. What will be my agenda if I am elected to the BOT? Number 1, resuming monthly meetings open to all members and non-members, updating the community about the ICCD activities, also allowing the community to ask questions in the Board of Trustees directly. Decisions of Board of Trustees should be totally transparent. Improve coordination between our imams. starting open debates with open question answer sessions in the presence of two imams and discussing common topics that impact our lives in the West. For example, flexibility in the timing and number of rak'ah in prayers while working in a non-Muslim environment. And ladies will like this: nail polish and wudu. Handshake with women at work, etc. etc. This will improve our understanding of Islam and help us differentiating our practices from cultural influences. Have a fiscally responsible budget and income expense ratio. Even Congress cannot do that. Develop and promote ICCD sponsored volunteer programs in the community at large. Long-term vision for ICCD, very important. I strongly believe that all masajids in the area have to coordinate in certain fields to present a strongly and unified front in the community. The coordination has to be expanded when discussing the future vision for Islamic school in the Tri-City area. Continue to work to bring in ideas to develop the property attached to the school in order to generate a regular income in the future. These are just some of the ideas. We have to set aside our small differences to achieve a much bigger goal of keeping our future generations of children close to masjid. It has been shown that the kids who are close, masjid rarely goes astray. What better example than our youth group that started as a small group and now includes professionals like lawyers and doctors. Remember, future of Islam in the United States depends on them and not on our older generations. Assalamu alaikum. I think he has said just about everything. And one issue, probably the old timers